Welcome back to Talking Bama with Big C. Today's show will have a recap of last week's game, the history of the upcoming game, also interview with the coach, and what we're going to do now is we're going to tell a recap of last week's game, Alabama-Florida Atlantic, which was a rain-shortened game because of a thunderstorm, or threats of thunderstorms, 8 miles away. But Alabama was victorious, winning 41-0 over Florida Atlantic. And finally, Alabama fans were able to get a chance to see Jacob Coker, the transfer from Florida State. Now, I understand why Jacob Coker is not starting. Blake Sims, a fifth-year senior, had command of the system, knew what he was doing, very smooth. And Jacob Coker, being a transfer coming in June and really practicing with the team just this past 4 weeks, did not look as smooth. Maybe down the road, Jacob Coker will be able to make the transition, but right now it is Blake Sims, and I see that he'll be starting the rest of the year or most of the year, but right now there's definitely no doubt who the best quarterback is. Last time Alabama played Southern Mississippi was on September the 10th, 2005. This was the game that Tyrone Prothro made the sensational catch. This catch was made to the Southern Mississippi 1-yard line, and what happened after that, Alabama scored on the drive, and that narrowed the score to 21-17 at the half. And also what happened after that, Alabama went on to win 30-21, and because of that play there, I firmly believe that turned Alabama's season around into being a good year that year, which ended up being a 10-2 season. Trivia question. Name that former Alabama quarterback who was the head coach at Southern Mississippi from 1931 to 1936. I recently interviewed Ken Wilder, who played tackle at Alabama from 1967 to 1969. All 3 seasons Ken played at Alabama, they played against Southern Mississippi. In 1968, that was the last time Alabama played in Ladd Stadium in Mobile. In 1969, Alabama played the first home game in Tuscaloosa, which also against Southern Mississippi, which also was the first time Alabama ever played on AstroTurf. We'll be back after these messages. And right now we got us a guest on the show, Ken Wilder. Hey, Ken, how you doing today, big man?
Hey, Big C, I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, too, and I'm glad you're on the show here. And I'm going to mention, I'm going to put a little spiel out on you in a second, but somebody was calling me up, said he's been talking about you, and does the name Roy McMullen ring a bell to you?
Yeah, I know Roy. He went to high school over at Thompson in Shelby County there. Yeah.
That's right. Oh, he's a Shelby County boy like you. That's right. I forgot about that. He played at Delta State, then ended up at Montevallo, but he's a good man. I talked to him yesterday on the phone.
Yeah, I think he's a pretty good baseball umpire, too, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, he does a good job. But let me go ahead and let me mention about you real quick for the folks here. You played at Alabama from 1967 to 69, and you led her from 1968 to 69, and you started at strong tackle in 1969. But this is what the first question I want to ask you is: you played on teams in high school from 1965 to 62 to 65 that went 39-0-1. Your freshman year on the freshman team at Alabama was 4-0, and going into the 5th game of your first year on the varsity, Alabama was 3-0-1. So you played on teams that was 46-0-2. and then finally you bit the bullet. You finally experienced a loss. Now, how was it? You never lost in high school. How was it like to finally lose a game?
I tell you, Big C, it was a totally different feeling, and really didn't. It was hard to understand because you always went on the field, you come back and you won. It was a whole lot different. It was a big adjustment, and it wasn't fun at all, and I didn't like that part about it. The only other game I lost was in the 8th grade when we had a one-game season, and we got beat pretty bad, and a group of us got together after the game and decided we weren't going to get beat again in high school, and we did. And when we lost that first game in college, it threw back that bad feeling we had there. So, no, it's not fun to lose. You know, sometimes it happens.
Oh, yeah,
You just have to suck it up and keep going.
That's right. You sound like that's a lesson you learned from Coach Bryant. Now, the highlight, you told me this, the highlight of your sophomore season was you was kicking off in the Cotton Bowl. Tell the listeners what the referee said to you when you were kicking off. This is pretty neat.
Yeah, we lined up to kick off, and the referee brought me the ball, and they called another timeout. He was standing there a minute, and he said, you know, there's a million people watching you kick this ball down on TV. And then he walked off, and he came back and handed the ball to me, and I looked at him and I said, you know, Mr. Ref, I said, there's a million people fixing to see this ball go into the end zone. We kicked the ball and went to the end zone. We scored sometime in the first quarter. When we come back to kick off the second time, he came up to me and handed the ball, and he said, well, son, I didn't get to you on that first one, did I? No, you're not going to get to me at all today, I guarantee you.
No, right. That was good. I like that. That's pretty good. Even the referees will even maybe try a little trash with you.
Yeah, there's a lot of small talk goes on in the game between people. And you know, most of it's a lot of fun, so it's okay.
An opponent you played against, your 3 years on the team, was against Southern Miss, and the first 2 years you played the game in Mobile at Ladd Stadium, and then last year you played it, at Tuscaloosa. Tell the listeners, I think that's pretty interesting. How did y'all travel to Mobile when y'all played Southern Miss the 2 years y'all played them?
Yeah, we flew the old Southern Airlines. They had the two-engine front jets, front engines, and we took 2 planes, and we'd fly to all our games on those, plane 1 and plane 2. Usually plane 1 was the first team with Coach Bryant, plane 2 was the substitute with some of the assistant coaches. That's the way we traveled back and forth. It took a little while longer than it does today with all the jet travel. It was a nice way to go, and we enjoyed flying. That day we went to Mobile and played the 2 games there, and that was a game Coach Bryant liked to play in Mobile. It was a recruiting type thing. It exposed a lot of the players that came from there, and it helped us.
Let me ask you this: when y'all worked out, when the team arrived, did y'all go and work out at Ladd Stadium, or did the team work out before going to Mobile and Tuscaloosa?
No, we would go into the stadium we played in. We'd fly down usually on Friday afternoons. Usually left Bryan Hall about 1:30 on the bus to the airport, and then when we got there, we would practice 45 minutes to an hour, just running through things, get a feel for the stadium, so you've been there before, so it wouldn't be a surprise when you come back the next day.
I got you. Now, in the 1967 game, y'all won 25-3. How much did you get to play that day? Stabler and Holman had a good day that day. I think they scored 3 touchdown passes. How much, since you were a backup, how much did you get to play that day?
I didn't play a whole lot in that game. I played a little off and on. That was my sophomore year, and I really didn't play a whole lot that year until I started kicking off later in part of the season. But I remember that game, and it was hot in Mobile, but we won it, and that was the main thing.
All right, now the next year was the last year that Alabama played ever in Mobile, and it was against Southern Miss. And you played in that game. What do you remember about that game, the 68 game?
I can remember that game. 2 or 3 things that happened. I guess the one that sticks out in my mind really big is that's the only game I ever got a penalty in. We set the offensive line, and I moved, and somewhere in the second quarter, and And, of course, there was no doubt who the guy was coming in to replace. When we started back to the huddle, the referee stepped off the penalty, and I went out. It was like I had some kind of disease. Nobody had anything to do with me. Well, halftime, Coach Bryant came up after it and asked me if I knew which side of the ball to stay on, and yes, sir. And I got to go back in and play some more. But the guy named Rex Barnes from Fayetteville gave us fits that day. He was a nose guard. We had played with him in the All-Star game in Tuscaloosa our senior year in high school back that summer, and he was on the South team. We played North and South back then, and me and him both was on the South team. And when we were playing, and there was always a little bit of mouthing going on back and forth, if you know the folks. And had a lot of fun, and he got in a little bit of trouble that day too, because he jumped off sides 3 times in a row. It came at a critical time because we could use those 15 yards, and it really did help. So after and other times we see him, we kind of ripped him pretty good about that. But that was a big thing in that game. That was a tough ball game. I think it was 17-14.
Right, that's right. I'll give you a little highlight on that. Y'all were trailing 14-7 going into the fourth quarter, and then Orrin Buck, teammate of yours, kicked a 19-yard field goal. And then later on in the game, it was sort of maybe about 6 minutes left in the game, from what I understand. Scott Hunter connected with George Renton.
You brought that up. We won a lot of games in the fourth quarter, and a lot of it was due to Coach Bryant keeping the fresh guys in. My junior year, I was a rotation guy. I actually got more playing time on the field as a junior than I did as a senior when I started, because I played the strong guard position and the strong tackle, and I alternated between the two. So I was in the game pretty much all the time, and he kept the two starters rested a lot, so in the fourth quarter they would be stronger than the guys opposing. So it was a pretty good strategy. It worked real well.
It sure did, and then Ranniger caught the touchdown pass to end up for y'all to win that game. Now the next year, y'all that was the last time ever Alabama played in Mobile, and it was against Southern Miss. Now the next year, your senior year, y'all played Southern Miss, and that was the first game played on AstroTurf at what they called back then Denny Stadium, which is now Bryant-Denny Stadium. How'd you like playing on AstroTurf?
AstroTurf was a different thing. It was new back then. We had put it down the year before over at the practice field, and we had practiced on it a lot, and then that year they made the decision to put it into Bryant-Denny. I think at that time it was just Denny Stadium, wasn't it?
Yeah, right. Then it was Denny Stadium, right.
And they put that down, and there's 2 things I didn't like about it. One, it was a heck of a lot hotter than the play and the normal air. I guess you get down on the turf, it's anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees hotter than the temperature says. You get burn on it. A lot of carpet burns. Slide, get carpet burns on it, and the backs really didn't like it because most of them kept their arms taped up or wrapped up somehow or another, because they did that, they'd burn the heck out of it.
Now that night, y'all played them a night game, and y'all gained 569 yards in total offense, winning 63-14. What do you remember about that game? The 69 game, that is.
That game, everything we did that night was pretty much went right. I think we scored the first 6 times we had the ball. If I'm not wrong on that. We had 31 first downs in that game, which was
that's a lot.
Substantial back then. And I think that was the second highest total points that the Coach Bryant team had scored at that time. They had scored 66 against Richmond, won, but then this was the second highest total. And I know he was real happy after the game. That was really important. He was really tickled after that game.
All right, we're gonna. Well, that's good. Now, your senior year, y'all started off 3-0 and beating Ole Miss, and then the next week you lost to Vanderbilt 14-10, and then things started going downhill. Did that game sort of? Did that from a confidence standpoint? Did that shake y'all, or was it a shaker, or did y'all lose it, or what? What's your opinion on that?
Well, we had a very good offensive team in 1969, and we could score. We did a lot of things, but on offense, everything has to click just right. I think Hunter was 4 for 25 that night at Vanderbilt. we still had the game won. We were driving in, the game out of reach, and Hunter throws a pass instead of running it. He had a wide open field to get it. He was on about the 35-yard line. He could have run down to the 15 easily. He threw it, intercepted it, and they went down, scored, and that won the game for them.
Well,
I guess after that game, Coach Brown started making some changes to try to beef up the defense. He moved a couple of offensive guys over to it. I think Alvin Samples, who made All-American as an offensive guard, he moved him to a linebacker, and he moved Pete Moore to a linebacker. Just trying to shove up some things, and kind of got things disrupted a little bit. And then the next week we lost to Tennessee. Matter of fact, in all the games I played, they probably had the only team that I considered that was better than we were. Tennessee had a really good football team that year. We hung in there, and I think if we'd have stayed like we were, we just kept trying to outscore folks, we would kind of won 2 or 3 more games. But Coach Brown, he didn't like that new thing coming in, the offense deal. He liked the 10 to 7 game.
Oh, yeah.
10 to 3, something like that. This was a change. I know that game of Ole Miss, it was a 33-32 ball game. It was everybody talked about it. It was a great ball game, but there was too many points scored. He wasn't too happy about that one either.
That's what I understand. All right, now I'm going to ask you 2 more questions. With the first one, what is your biggest highlight or memory of playing football at Alabama?
I got a lot of those, but kicking off in the Cotton Bowl was a big deal for me. That was a great event. And getting to start my senior year and starting all 11 games and being involved in all of them, it was fantastic. And getting to play, Stapler was the quarterback for 2 years, and Scott Hunter was for 2 years. It was a different type of Stapler run the ball a good bit more, and he was a great quarterback, and I enjoyed the deal with him, and Scott humming the ball pretty good there. So, it was a lot of fun. Met a lot of guys. We still get together a lot.
All right, my last question is, tell the folks what you're doing now, because a lot of people always wonder, I remember one time a friend of mine saying, well, what is this guy doing now? Where is he now? Whatever. So what are you doing now?
Right now, I've been in the trucking business for 40 years, and I worked for various companies around overnight transportation for a lot of years. And my last 10 years I put in with FedEx. And when I hit 62, I kind of decided I was going to go out on my own, and I kind of semi-retired deal and started a little third-party logistics company. So now I'm working my own deal on that and going around calling on people. Calling a number of people down in Greenville and Troy and Montgomery and that area too.
Folks, Ken Wilder, Wilsonville, Alabama. I want to thank you for your time and appreciate it, and I'll definitely see you in the A Club this year. I know I'll see you at all the home games, or most of the home games anyway.
Looking forward to seeing you, Big C. Always a pleasure, man.
Thank you. I'll talk to you later. I appreciate it, Ken. You have a great day. Using the Coach Gene Stallings method, Alabama's rushing offense is number 25 versus Southern Mississippi's 116 in NCAA stats. Also, Alabama's rushing defense is number 3 in the country, while Southern Miss's rushing offense is number 91. The only edge that Southern Miss has on Alabama is the turnover margin, which Alabama's tied at number 87 with a minus .05 turnover margin, while Southern Mississippi's tied for 20 at 1.50. My prediction for this game is that Alabama will win 49-7, with a lot of players getting a lot of action in Saturday. As you remember earlier in the show, I gave you a trivia question. The question was, name the former Alabama player who was the head coach at Southern Mississippi from 1931 to 1936. The answer is A.T.S. Pooley Herbert. who was a quarterback on the 1926 Rose Bowl team, who was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 1964. I want to thank Ken Wilder for being our guest, that we were able to find out some interesting information about the Alabama Southern Mississippi series. I also want to thank you, the fans, for being part of our show. Let your friends and neighbors know about this show. I also want to let you know that I have a radio program called Talking Sports with Big C at JockJive.com, Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 a.m. Central Time. Last thing I want to say is this: Roll, Tide, roll!